Hi, welcome to my video. I'm Jennifer Roberts. You're catching me on my YouTube channel, True Divine 44. You can also get me on my Facebook page, True Divine, and it is the True Divine for both Instagram and Twitter. Any likes, shares, subscribes, comments, follows, greatly appreciated on any of those platforms, and much love to everybody who does that thus far. I really do appreciate you helping me grow what I'm trying to grow here. This is part of the free content that I put out on a daily basis to help support you, guide you and inspire you. Always take what resonates and leave the rest behind, because it is a general reading. I work with energy, I work with tarot amongst other things. Combine the two together to bring a narrative to you, to help guide you on your day, to help you navigate your way through your day with the energies that you may feel within, around you and within other people. So for the day of the 19th of August 2020, we've got the Six of Cups. And so this is speaking of the past. It's speaking of, because it's clarified by this Knight of Swords, which is coming up hugely, which is the words, the thoughts, the intellect, the truth, truth-telling. You see how, if we're speaking about the past and thinking back on the past, reminiscing to the past, times gone by, but then we've got this clarifying quite, it's a very active card of this Knight of Swords chasing through the streets with his horses taking no prisoners, and him himself taking no prisoners. He's wielding his sword of truth. Is telling the truth as it is. Oftentimes when we look back at the past, we can look through rose-coloured glasses. We can look through the lenses of the way others want us to see the past, or the relationships that we've had with them in the past, and we can often want to put a bit of a glint on it. We can do that for the good or bad of ourselves. We can also look at situations that really weren't truly as bad as we tried to make out to ourselves, but you know, we for some reason ego has led us to try to perceive the past in a certain way. And so for the greater good or the greater bad of ourselves, we can look at the past through different lenses, for good and bad. This truth being wielded shows that, you know, there's something in the past that, you know, isn't what it seems. Especially for those of you who are still finding yourself in the wrong relationships, finding yourself in the wrong friendship circles, finding yourself in settings with others that your frequency just does not match, and you haven't heeded the warnings up until now to get the right frequency people around you, people who match your frequency around you. It may be that today you hit from with a little bit of a bolt, in that, you know, there's truth being spoken into that past, and therefore it is affecting the present where you are with those people. It's the speaking of the truth, whether it is regarding yourself and how somebody's perception is of you, or whether you're seeing some others within your group or within your relationships, whatever they may be. You're seeing those with a different truth, almost like some lenses have been, or some cataracts have been peeled off the eyes, so that today for some reason there's truth coming out regarding the past. There's a different perception put on it. There's a different lens being used to view the past, and maybe in reality seeing it for what it was more like than what you tried to fool yourself, or that others tried to fool you into feeling it was. So that's a bit, it could feel a bit harsh. It could feel a bit like your world's crashing down. Remember, it is your past world, and it is doing this to help relieve you in your present. If it does resonate with you that you haven't quite been brave enough to take the steps to get out of the wrong circles, so to speak, this might feel harsh for it to happen this way. But if you haven't been heeding the warnings, then something quite aggressive is going to have to plow through you to let you see the truth, to let you perceive the truth. in a more perceptive way, rather than through the lens of others, or rather than through the ego of self. And so it might feel like the world's coming crashing down, but take it as what it is. It's the clearing of the way. The clearing of the way for you to go forward and match up with people who are really on your frequency, to start living in your truth more so. And so this crashing through of the past does affect the present, because it might be that you find that you are questioning what you've been doing for all of this time within that situation. Again, don't dwell on that too much. Obviously, you've stayed there, but you've learned things along the way. You've learned things about yourself. You've learned things about others. You know, nothing is ever truly wasted. So not to dwell on the past in that regard, but to allow this chariot, this chariot of truth, this sword of truth, to maybe slay through a little bit of the past, to slice it up, to see it for what it really is. You know, send it through that MRI machine and look at the slices, look at the slides of it, rather than those rose-tinted glasses that we like to use often on our pasts. Because it's the cups, it involves emotional. So for more people than not, it is going to involve friendships, lovers, you know, things that have involved a lot of emotions, family units. And so it could be a little bit difficult to navigate those feelings, but absolutely doable, absolutely necessary to help pave the way, to help clear your path, for you to be on your journey, on the right path for you, on your soul's journey. And so for the next card is the Eight of Wands. It keeps coming up. You know, it's very active, messages coming through. Messages from higher self, messages in the physical reality, messages between one another. Now, because it may be that if this resonates with you, you know that relationships are being rocked because truth is being placed to the past. Truth is being given to the past. It is a bit of a we've got the Eight of Wands, but then we've got the Ten of Swords to clarify that. Now you can see this scene. It's a pretty gory scene. You know, there's smoke bellowing. There's people wounded. It's a war scene. And so there's going to be some pretty aggressive messaging going on between different fractions, different people. There's going to be quite fiery, quite passionate, maybe quite negatively charged messages going back and forth today. Because if somebody's been trying to hold you to a certain perception of the past and what their relationship, no matter what that relationship is to you, is about, and what they tried to portray it to be, then they're not going to like it when you start to put your truth to those emotions, when you start to unveil yourself out of ego and are able to see things more truthfully and able to face things that you've been burying. If this resonates with you, you'll know that you've been burying this and knowing this for quite some time. It isn't any kind of shocker, but there's been this continuous putting off and putting off and putting off, out of fear more often than not. And so the people that have wanted to keep you trapped in your past, maybe kept you beholden to your past, you know, maybe they were your support in the past and they've never let you forget it up until present day, but then it's not taken into account the support that you've offered back. There's scenarios like that happening for many people today, and so people aren't going to like it. So we have got this Eight of Wands clarified by this Ten of Swords. Now, because it is a 10, these messages that are firing back and forth do lead to an end of a cycle, and it's a pretty harsh cycle. And when you put that truth to the past regarding this cycle, you maybe see just quite how harsh it really has been, and just how difficult it really has been, where you might have been fooling yourself that it's been mostly good, mostly enjoyable. It's this truth puts pay to that, and the reaction that you get when you speak your truth regarding your past in your present moment now, today, it does cause a bit of carnage. This person isn't happy about that, because then it challenges their ego. So it's a rocky day for relationships that haven't been living in truth. Now, the third card is this Queen of Wands, but the Queen of Wands in reverse. Now, usually the Queen of Wands being so open, sensual and compassionate, this Queen of Wands in reverse, Dodger, she is the energy of jealousy, of vindictiveness, aggression. And so we have the Three of Cups to clarify this Queen of Wands in reverse. And so she's very hot and passionate on revenge. So, you know, steer clear if you can. If not, you know, stand your ground, because now if ever is the time to, you know, it's the TikTok moment to get in the right frequency groups of people, in the right frequency relationships, if you want to be in a relationship. But even if you just don't want to be in a relationship, just to be able to be in your own frequency, but the right frequency. Now, this Three of Cups here, you see this beautiful woman breastfeeding, which is a beautiful sight. You see this child drinking from the chalice, also probably breast milk, because it's the most nutrient-rich formula that we have got as humans. And so there's provision here, but also a woman scorned, if this resonates with you, a mother scorned. So for a lot of cases, it might be that you are a man put in truth to your past, and a mother who has had your children, so you're a father, isn't liking it and has turned from still being the fantastic mother that she is and has been. But you know, there needs to be an understanding here, and that yes, this Queen of Wands in reverse is full of jealousy, maybe full of hate, maybe full of vindictiveness. But you know, that's coming from a place of an ego that is the mother, that has been trying to maintain and build something. And behind the scenes, in a lot of cases, it will be that this Queen of Wands has known that actually the partnership is not exactly her dream of heaven either. But she started the partnership, she started a family with this partnership, and so there needs to be some kind of understanding here as to where this aggression is coming from, where this jealousy, where this hatred is coming from. And although the hatred is unfounded, because if she was looking at it with wisdom, she would be able to see that, you know, this paves a way for her truth, for her way forward, for her real frequency to be able to be expanded. But you know, right now there's the initial shock, there's the initial punch to the ego, and so the passionate messages are exchanged, the carnage of the Ten of Swords, the fear of that cycle ending, because she has these children at foot. Because she's nourished these children within this relationship. So there's the fear of the unknown. There's the fear of how does she go forward from here. So whether you're the male or the female in the situation, try to, with this Knight of Swords, it might be that, you know, you guys, if this resonates with you, have both been kidding yourselves for quite some time, as to the truth of the matter regarding the relationship. And it might be that, you know, there needs to be almost this carnage, this shock, these fiery messages going back and forth with this Eight of Wands and this Ten of Swords, in order to kick your butts into doing something that is right for both of you guys. But at the same time, that's not to say that of any given party in this reading, if it resonates with you, whatever side of the coin you are on, that there can't be some kind of understanding and wisdom put to it, in that we can see where the ego is coming in. We can see where the fear is coming in, the fear of loss of something that, yes, isn't perfect. Yes, maybe both knew wasn't working, and have maybe put a perception of it working. But at the same time, you know, that it's just to be compassionate regarding it. Not too compassionate in that you don't share the truths, you don't share the exchanges of messages that need to happen to make this transition, but to recognize where this is coming from, that it isn't just coming from nowhere. It isn't just coming from this Queen of Wands in reverse being a bad person. No, it's, you know, ego, it's fear. It's fear because it's a mother that is feeling threatened. The unit that she's built and that she's come to know, and that her children have come to know. And there's nothing more aggressive than a fearful mother. And so on the bottom of the deck, we've got the Death card, came up yesterday. It's kept coming up. So this transition needs to happen. This transition, not to say that it's an easy transition, but actually when this jump is actually made, it gets easier from here. The only reason it's quite so hard is because there hasn't been real truth shared in the matter. There hasn't been a real exchange of truth within the relationship. And so this Death card speaks of transitioning into the next cycle, transitioning into leveling up, into and keeping in flow with life, changing making space for the new. And you can't do that when you're stuck in situations that aren't right for you, that don't match your frequency. So where it might feel difficult, the Death card is actually a kindness, in that there's, with this Ten of Swords combined with the Death card, combined with the other cards, you know, that this transition is necessary. And actually, if there are children involved, if this resonates with you and you do have children involved, you might think you're doing the children a favour by staying in relationships like this. What would really be the favour to the children is that both parents are living in their frequency, both parents are living their truths, and that the children see that, and that the children see parents, even if parents are having to separate, can be able to be compassionate towards each other, to have wisdom enough to recognise where emotions are coming from, to be able to support each other through the transition, even to be grown up about it. That's where children would really find their stability in the situation. Often children, I feel, find when there is breakups happening, find it most disconcerting when one or both parents just won't meet as adults, just won't put the children first, in that, you know, that regardless of what emotions or what ego or what pain or what hurt we might have caused one another, as long as there's no violence, as long as there hasn't been any abuse towards the children, then parents would do well to actually allow their children to see them living in truth, but also being able to continue to be parents cooperatively, you know, to be working together still for the betterment of their children. The children always, in my opinion, come in first. And so on the bottom of the other deck, we've got the Six of Coins. So this speaks to the balance and the kindness shown. There might be a worry here for this Queen of Wands in reverse of, so how will my material realm work then? How will I be able to be provided for with my children in the same way that I have been? Will I be helped out with childcare? And all of these questions that haven't quite had a chance in all of this passion, in all of this fury, haven't quite had a chance to be answered or proved to. That's where it leads us into the Queen of Wands in reverse. You know, that's where this fiery temper, this jealousy and this seemingly hatred is coming from, this fear. is coming from. And so it's to have understanding and have wisdom towards the situation, not to be the scapegoat any longer if you have been the scapegoat in the situation just because you've been maybe helped out in the past and you've been paying for it ever since, even if that's been sort of under the radar. But to have some compassion still and some wisdom towards what the other is feeling. So, not an easy day if that resonates with you. Now, regarding outside of relationship, because I try not to be too specific in these general readings, yes, it speaks very loudly of relationship. Yes, it speaks very loudly of relationship that has involved family, that has involved children, children that are still dependent to some extent. But if we are to look at other situations, just so that I'm covering as many bases as I possibly can, it's not fair to be too specific. Sometimes I can't help it, it is what it is, but I try not to be too specific in these general readings. So to clarify the Six of Cups and the Knight of Swords, the Ace of Swords comes flying out, as you saw. So the Ace of Swords comes up. So speaking clarity, having clarity to the situation, having the clarity of the past, without these lenses, these distorted lenses that we've been looking through. It might be that you as an individual are looking back at your childhood and finally, as an adult in this frequency that you're in, can finally lift the veil and have the bravery to go forward and look at your past, your childhood, with clarity, with knowing what went on and how it really went on, and how that is affecting your present day, and how maybe you don't want it affecting your future. It might be that, you're looking at your past, your childhood in particular, and you're seeing it for what it was, in that you see your parents working a lot harder than you gave them credit for, and maybe having a greater understanding of what your parents did for you, and a greater gratitude for what your parents did for you. If that's the case, even if there's somebody this resonates with, and that they think this about the parents, they've been thinking this for quite some time, but the family household is quite stiff upper lip. In fact, their father, they haven't had many hearts to hearts, if any, with their father at all, but the feelings are there. You'll be shocked at the reaction you get if this resonates with you. If you can be the adult going back and thanking said father and mother, but this father in particular, for the clarity that you have regarding the childhood that he provided for you and the lessons that he did for you. In fact, it will melt that father, and it'll really help the relationship blossom into something that you never expected you would have with your father. So whoever that resonates for, do that. You'll be very, very pleasantly surprised. And if you notice here, it's the first time I've noticed this, but on either side of this sword of truth, this sword of clarity, there's sort of six like embers, flames, six either side. There's three particles, whatever they are. It feels like embers to me, or leaves blowing in the wind down from the crown of the sword maybe, but there's six, and it's clarifying the Six of Cups. So definitely speaking truth and having that clarity, speaking truth into your past. So if that resonates with you regarding this father, please do that, because that'll be a beautiful scenario, and it'll really lift your frequency, lift both of your frequencies, and that father will truly, truly appreciate that gratitude and the knowing that you've recognized the sacrifices that were made, especially if that father was a young parent, or indeed the other extreme, an older parent. There's two extremes there. So the Eight of Wands, taking it out of it being too personal and bringing it into some other scenarios. The Eight of Wands, again, with this Ten of Swords, this carnage, there's a separation of these frequencies that I've kept discussing, that is getting more and more extreme, more and more stark. So expect a lot of triggered messages flying by, especially if you're speaking truth into touchy situations, into things that people don't want to hear, because they've been so used to living in their little boxes and not wanting to see the truth of what's happening, in particular in the powers that be. And how our society is really set up, that you are going to get some triggered messages today, some quite passionate messages. On the converse, people are going to see your bravery, and they're going to want to join in and help you bring an end to this cycle. Now the Tower card comes in. It might be that quite a few friendships end today. Now I don't say that in a sad way, because it's necessary. If people are going to stay on the lower frequency, they're going to stay on the lower frequency, and we do have to have a little bit of wisdom to say it is what it is. Otherwise we would drown ourselves, and actually it would do what it's done in the past and put us off speaking that truth. It would put us off having that clarity. It would perturb us from being able to bring this sort of truth into the matter, in order to make this society more fair, to make this society more safe for our children, to make this society that accepting only of natural law, in that we don't harm, we don't take what is not ours, we don't allow others to harm, we don't allow others to take which is not theirs, we don't allow people to abuse our children. And so in a way, this Tower card and these friendships ending, it is what it is. Deal with it, because it's something that if you don't deal with it, then you're not going to be able to be up for the task. You'll put off sending those messages, you'll put off speaking your truth, you'll put off putting those fiery wands into the air with your messages of truth and of empowerment. Because you won't want this carnage of this Ten of Swords, you won't want this ending of this cycle, and you certainly won't want this Tower card. Now this Tower card is the breaking down of illusions, the breaking down of an illusionary matrix, the breaking down of systems and people and ego that is built on rocky foundations, that should not be made to last and will not be made to last. And we will speak truth into these matters. We will not be quiet. We will not put up with these rocky towers anymore, towering over us. Indeed, in particular on the collective stage with the powers that be, the crown of their egoic towers will be knocked down, but they'll only be knocked down if we can be brave enough to let go of friendships that are on a different frequency, that aren't for us. Because people in lower frequency, or people who are living in fear or in ego, aren't going to even want these, as mad as it seems, aren't going to want these systems, these corrupt systems, these abusive systems, even when it affects our children. And they're not going to want to see them for what they are, because they just want to be the ostriches and put their head in the sand and pretend like everything's going to be okay. Why? Because they haven't accepted their divinity and sovereignty. So they haven't accepted the fact that they have their own empowerment. They haven't accepted they have accepted, that it's okay for people to be abused. It's okay for even themselves to be abused within these systems, if it means that life can just go on as is, because they don't want to accept the fact that they should not be externalizing power to an externalized source. They should be getting it from within, because they haven't been brave enough to do the inner work. They're not going to get there. So, if you aren't brave enough to to be able to still send and speak your truth out there, in particular where this corruption lies, where these abuses lie, then you're not going to be able to be in the highest possible frequencies, because you're not going to want to speak the truths to break down that which would try and control and manipulate everybody in the masses to be controlled and maintained in the lower frequency. And so there is going to be some rocky ground, there is going to be some tumbling down, there is going to be some foundations breaking, and with that implosions happening. And so to clarify, the last two cards is the Four of Pentacles. So this speaks again, blessed, to this King of Wands, Queen of Wands in reverse, this clinging on, this miserly, this fear, this worry, not wanting to let go of anything that's been built up, because what will happen, what if, how am I going to do this, how am I going to do that? Too many fiery questions to self that that aren't full of empowerment, that aren't full of self-sourcing, but are full of, again, externalizing the power source. There are going to be people on the collective stage, in the masses, friends that you have, even family members, that are going to want to cling on, like I say, to these tower cards, to these towers. No matter how abusive, you could show them all the evidences in the world, and they're still going to cling on to what they know, because it's sustained them well enough so far, so they don't want to rock the boat because of the fear of what if. And that's because they haven't done that inner work, they haven't got that self-empowerment, they haven't got that source of power, that source of knowledge that everything can come from within them. And so they are going to cling on, so they might, fire messages back at you to shut you down. So it does take bravery, it does take warriors, it does take Gemini warriors to speak the truth, it does take people wielding this sword, and yes, stirring some shit up, to get things spoken. Again, today, truths coming out on the collective stage regarding corruption in governments, in particular in the UK, with this sort of power, with this sort of truth, real truths coming out in the UK today, if not coming onto the collective stage today. The date will be sourced from today of when this leak happened, whatever it might be, regarding the real corruption, in particular with children. Social services system is coming up in my mind. So yeah, take note of that as well, and leave in the comments if you catch anything that I don't. On the bottom of the deck, after I did that clarifying round there, on the bottom of that deck is the Ten of Wands. So again, it's been tough, it's been hard work getting here, but here you've been through the river of Styx, so to speak, in that you've managed to carry all of these wands to the top of the hill. You've managed to, again, it's an ending of a cycle, the 10, the ending of a cycle, the bringing in of a new cycle, making space for the new. And that's not to say it's easy. Look, this guy is having to put all of his body weight into holding on to all of these sticks. But he's tying them up. Look, they're tied up in the bottom there. Now, to me, I don't know why this is coming up, but it feels like if he moved his hand up a little bit, that he would be able to hold them a bit better, that they wouldn't be quite so fanned out. And sometimes I just feel that we make this harder on ourselves, we make things harder on ourselves than they need to be. There's practical things in just moving this lower hand up and putting it more in the center point of the sticks, and being able to then put them over his shoulder and carry them up. One, he would be able to stand upright, and two, he would be able to put a lot less effort into it, because maybe of the complacency that we've all had in our individual relationships through the collective stage. Maybe this is to depict, and maybe that's why that's coming up in my mind, that it is a bit of an uphill struggle. with this carnage, this Tower card, being caused by these wands, these messages going back and forth, and this Sword of Truth, this Ace of Swords, this clarity in that Knight of Swords. You know, it is a bit of an uphill struggle. And in particular, bear in mind, it's more of an uphill struggle to speak truth into these matters because the people are policing the people. History repeats itself. In just like the lead up to World War II, where people started policing people, just like the masks, where people are saying, where's your mask? And giving people a hard time for not wearing a mask, just like they did. And as controversial as this might seem, I do not care. Just before World War II and during World War II, other Jews even saying to Jews, you know, where's your armband? Where's that armband? And so, you know, Hitler stole another one of our sacred symbols with the star, and you know, but he made it yellow, and but just similar enough, and there had to be this yellow armband placed on the arms of the Jews, and people started policing the people. People did the work for them. And so it is a bit of an uphill struggle, because we are fighting not against just systems, not against just one or two people in our lives, to try and spread truth and clarity. We are going up the hill against a river of people that would not do the work, that would not do the research, that would not have the wisdom to be able to see things for what they are. To be able to have their own truths, their own sense of power, their own sense of divinity and sovereignty. So you will find that people will police people on behalf of the collective stage. I know, unbelievable as it might seem, it's happening. All of you will be able to say it's happened to you over this last 6 months at least once, if not 10, 20 times. So that's just to bear in mind, that make sure you're up to the task, because we need to be up to the task. It's serious times of change. What kind of change do you want to see on the other side of this? You know, nobody can be pretending that we didn't have warning. Nobody can be pretending that we didn't have enough insight, enough truth being told for us to see the writing on the wall, for us to see that we needed to take action, for us to see that we needed to do that final push up the hill to get some clarity here up in the house, you know. So do your work, do your part. You do that by first and foremost getting yourself in alignment and your nuclear circle. You can't be doing this truth telling, this clarity giving, this sword of truth wielding, if you haven't got yourself in alignment, if you're in your own circle, because you're not going to be sending out clarity then if you're stuck in relationships or circles that you don't belong in anymore, and you've known fine well for quite some time that you don't belong in them. Then you can't be expecting people to listen to you. They'll pick up on your frequency that, well, you're not actually exactly living your own truth, are you? So, you know, we do need to have that first and foremost, and then move out into the wider stage. So much love. That's the reading for the what's the date? 19th of August 2020. If you'd like a private reading with me, get in touch with the details below. Hit me up on Facebook at True Divine. You can also email me there if you'd like any spiritual work, any spiritual guidance, any energy work to get yourself in alignment, figure out where those blocks are, to help you get in alignment with your life, and bringing in that manifestation that you want, that you require, but can't quite figure out why you can't get it done. You know, energy work really helps with that. You can hit me up for any of those. Until tomorrow, much love, be balanced and be whole. Mwah.